the 12th edition of the Roundtable and our last show of 2012. We're really pumped to bring you our best of 2012. Going to go over our favorite story of the year, what we thought was most important to MMA, the fighter of the year, card of the year, fight of the year, finish of the year, and of course our favorite moment on the Roundtable of 2012. Also, of course, have the week's news to bring you, and UFC 155 this Saturday. Going to break down the prelims and main card of that. So let's kick it off. Let's do it. And thank you very much, as always, for tuning in. We really appreciate all our listeners. The MMA Roundtable, you can catch us live every Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m., 4 to 6, or that's 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific, and we got the phone straightened up, so if you do want to call in this time, we can take your calls. It's 213-457-3380. Tweet us at the MMA Podcast. If you want to just let your thoughts known via Twitter, we'll read that out on the air. And, usually we have Ray on to plug MMA Mental, but this week we have two absences. Ray is over in Spain doing his Christmas thing, and our buddy Ramses is stuck in the Houston airport like Tom Hanks on terminal. So it's just going to be myself, Chris, Patrick, and Dave this week. So let me pass it over to P Money to plug MMA Mental.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. MMA Mental, we're currently on a December hiatus. We are done for the year. You can go to MMAmental.com. You can check out our show, the last one we did for the year, featured Mike the Warrior Wilkinson, fresh off his UFC on FX 6 victory over, who the hell did he beat? I don't remember.
Mike Dunderson.
Yeah, Mike Dunderson. Solid victory. And we also had Ryan Gimo, 17-1, owner of the fastest knockout in UFC history. He was talking about his fight with James Tahuna. Solid show. We got some big things coming up for 2013. Ray's got his fight diaries going on. We got Ulysses as confirmed. He's going to be on in 2013. That's where the fighters, they call in on like the every day before their fight, the week leading up to the fight. They let us know what they're doing, how the weight cut's going. So we got some big things in store for 2013, and you can follow us at MMA Mental and also subscribe on iTunes.
Gia, and I believe that fighter was Brandon Loughnane or something. Loughnane. I don't know. Laugh name.
Yeah, Brendan. Yep.
Yeah, I'm fucking horrible with pronouncing things. Also listen to the MMA Podcast. We actually, Connor Hune coming out recently that Zuffa isn't picking up his insurance tab. I wish we could have gotten him on last night's podcast, but I actually reached out to him after the show last night and DM'd back and forth, and it's looking like we're going to get Connor Hune on our show next week on January 2nd, so I'm really pumped to have him on and talk about those troubles he's been having with Zuffa. Obviously we've been talking about it forever, kind of been getting postponed. Joey Diaz having the kid, Renzo Gracie super busy, Lenny Hart has some new news in the works that she wanted to wait until it was finalized before she came on and talked about, so we plan on having them all on in the future. And obviously our podcast is live on the same Ustream channel, which we tweet out before and during the show. You can tweet us at the MMA Podcast to find out more about us. 9 to 11 Eastern, definitely check it out. Before we start talking about 2012, this is our last show of the year, obviously. How were all of your Christmases? It was just a couple days ago. You all get anything good in the sack from Santa Claus?
Shoot. I got some cigars, gift cards. It was nice. Did the family thing.
What about you, Dave?
It was nice low key. Christmas, got a new executive chair, so I'm sitting in style now.
That's going to be real good for your scoliosis.
Definitely.
I had to work both Christmas Eve day and Christmas Day, but luckily I got some cool shit. Earlier on, I got a new Xbox hard drive, a year of Xbox Live Gold, and two of my buddies, my close friends, shout out Andrew Hedrick, shout out Gregory Anderson, they both went half and half to buy me a fleshlight, so I'm jacking off in style.
Jacking off in extreme style into the fleshlight. It is the number one sex toy for men, as I've heard ad nauseum on the Rogan podcast. I had a few cool items myself. A couple gift cards, gas gift card, which is going to be extremely helpful now that I'm homeless and unemployed. I can cruise around without worrying too much about it.
Picking up hot chicks and treating them to a $25 Applebee's dinner.
Picking up bitches, son. Yeah, we going to Sizzler on this shit. Fucking, it's pretty crazy, you know. We just started up about halfway through the 2012 year, and it's already wrapping up. This is our final show of 2012, and that sort of segues into the best of 2012. Lots of stuff went down. It was actually a real busy year for MMA, starting to flourish, get into the mainstream. And before I ask you about your specific favorite fighter, card, fight, finish, all that good stuff of 2012, what to you all was for you the biggest story in mixed martial arts? We had a bunch of stuff: Strike Force's demise, drug suspensions, namely Nick Diaz and Alistair Overeem, canceling some of the sport's biggest fights. Obviously, the UFC 151 fiasco with John Jones. Fedor retiring, the emergence of women's mixed martial arts, injuries, namely those huge knee injuries to the champions St. Pierre and Cruz. I'll throw it around to Dave first. What do you think about all this stuff, and what to you was the biggest story of the year?
Yeah, 2012 has definitely been a pretty memorable year. A lot of good stories out there. I think my biggest story I would have to go with is the big Fox deal that the UFC signed. I know it was probably 2011, but it really kicked off in 2012, with all the fights and everything like that. It's a huge step for MMA getting on local TV, stabilizing on local TV, or national TV.
How dare you?
Those wacky Strike Force events. But yeah, I think that's my biggest story.
Yeah, to keep different from last night on the MMA podcast, I said that it was the UFC canceling its first ever event and the emergence of women's MMA. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of say my own thing that's off the list. I'm going to go ahead and say that the Mayans were wrong. They were assholes. So that's a big story. We're still here, still going strong in almost 2013. As well as the first openly gay mixed martial UFC fighter, Liz Carmouche. For the first time ever, there is somebody fighting under the Zuffa banner that has come out and said that they are gay, and I think that's incredible and good for her, man. Takes a lot of balls, hypothetically and metaphorically,
figuratively.
Well said, Chris. Yes, it's a good deal of figurative balls to do that. For myself, for story of the year, I'll have to go with UFC 151 being canceled. Everybody says, it was due to Dan Henderson injuring his knee. John Jones didn't want to take a short notice fight. The card was kind of weaker on paper, so they decided to go ahead and scrap the entire pay-per-view. I think that's big just because I think for that will really help the shift to a full-blown TV schedule. I think they're going to try and move away from pay-per-view. If you look at the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, they generate way more money than the UFC does, and that's because of television deals and advertising dollars. And I think that's where the UFC wants to go. Yeah, they have some lucrative pay-per-views, your UFC 146s, those have been good. But generally speaking, this year, most of the cards, some of the best cards that we've ever seen have been on the UFC on Fox or the UFC on FX Spin or on Free TV, even the UFC on Fuel cards. They've all been really good. So I think, if UFC 151 were UFC on FX or something like that, it wouldn't have been canceled because you know what? It's still a full fight card, free on TV. No big deal. They're just going to go ahead and do the thing. You may have some pissed off ticket holders, but as far as TV goes, you could have just rolled with the punches on that one. So I think that's really where the UFC is going to look to go in 2013 and beyond, especially considering how well the UFC on Fox deal's gone over thus far.
For me, I didn't broach it in those 6 topics I threw out, but especially, I don't know if I would have chosen it as my story of the year before this Diaz-St. Pierre matchup, but for me, it is the UFC's sort of ratings grab. and we haven't seen it out of the promotion up until recently. Most title shots and fights that I think of, at least Zuffa era, the last 6 or 7 years, pretty much every title shot has been a deserved title shot. You haven't seen that many bizarre grabs for ratings. You have a weird fight every now and then. You have like a Tito Shamrock 3. You have, random shit. But for me, it's the UFC grabbing at ratings, sort of ignoring the whole ranking setup. Both of these title shots, and you think about it, I think there are 6 title shots slated now. Velasquez, Dos Santos, Jones, Sonnen, Anderson Silva doesn't have the match. GSP Diaz, Benson Henderson actually doesn't either. And then Barao McDonald, and I'm forgetting, and Aldo versus Edgar. Of those 6 title shots, 3 of the title challengers are coming off losses, which I find absolutely bizarre. Half of the title fights scheduled now have a challenger that's coming off of a loss, period. And only one of them really deserves it. I think most people could agree that Frankie Edgar, especially after 2 very razor-thin decisions with Benson Henderson, the second one being quite controversial, Frankie Edgar deserves that immediate featherweight title shot. Also, he's stepping down as compared to Sonnen, who's coming off an ass whooping and is moving up. These title shots for Chael Sonnen and Nick Diaz are disgusting, and I'm big fans of both guys, so don't get me wrong. I'm definitely looking forward to the build-up of both of those fights. Sonnen Jones and St. Pierre Diaz are going to have some awesome stare-downs, some awesome barbs thrown back and forth, and I'll probably buy into the UFC trying to sell these fights and get ratings for it. But both of these fights are non-deserved title shots. Johnny Hendricks and Dan Henderson are getting royally screwed. And for me, it's something that I hope we don't see any more of. I hope it's just kind of a one-time thing. We get these 2 fights out of the way and can move on. But for me, my story of the year is this whole ratings grab, and I'm not really a big fan of it. Moving on to 2012 fighter of the year, Chris and I actually talked about most of these on our podcast last night. Kind of went into a little bit of detail, took callers and all that. But for fighter of the year, I'll lead this one off. I have Benson Henderson. He's really climbed quite a bit. Fighting 3 times for the title, beating Frankie Edgar twice, which is a hell of a feat. And then going on to beat Nate Diaz, who was crushing lightweight contenders in his way. He was the most active title holder, fighting 3 times, defending his belt twice. And honestly, I put him in the top 4 pound for pound now. I have Silva, St. Pierre, Aldo, then Benson Henderson. And I think Benson, when he first beat Frankie Edgar, I don't know if it was after the first or second Edgar fight, he said something along the lines of, I'm coming after Anderson Silva's record. I want to break the record for most title defenses. And I rolled my eyes, thought, yeah, sure, whatever. You're really going to defend the belt 10 times. Now I'm starting to think, after he, beat Nate Diaz up for 25 minutes with a toothpick in his mouth, I think Benson Henderson could be around for a while. And even though there are a lot of fighters who are close, my fighter of the year award goes to Benson Henderson. What about you, Dave?
It's really hard to go against him right now, especially after the fight against Diaz. I mean, the guy just flat out whooped his ass for 25 minutes straight, and like you mentioned, with that damn toothpick. The 3 title defenses, it's huge. I mean, a lot of people argue, Edgar won, but, we all seen Henderson won. You can argue about it if you want, but still a big feat that he did that. He's just definitely came into his own as a fighter this past year, knocking people around. I have to go with him.
All right, so last night I said Ronda Rousey, and that's a good choice. But yet again, I just wanted to make a comment on what Jake said Benson Henderson, when he faced Frankie Edgar the first time, he had a legit case for winning that fight. Frankie, as the champion, didn't do enough to defend it. That second fight, I felt, was a gift decision. And this, past month, he absolutely validated himself as the king of the division and absolutely savaging Nate Diaz. So that's a great call. I'm going to actually switch it up for this podcast. I'm going to say it's Matt Brown. He's the only guy to go 4-0 in the UFC in 2012. He's really turned his career around. Before his 4-0 run, he was 1-3, losing by submission every single time he went out. He's absolutely turned it around this calendar year and has 3 out of 4 fights. He's got finishes against Luis Ramos, something Cope. Can't remember his name. It's not Chris Cope, is it? Yeah, Chris Cope.
Boobs.
Boobs McCoy. And then he finished off this year with a emphatic knockout of Mike Swick. So, and Mike Swick has never been knocked out in his entire UFC career. He's been submitted but never KO'd. So fantastic for Matt Brown to really put it together, change himself up. His next fight, I feel, should be a top 10 opponent. So congratulations to Mike Swick.
Yeah, well said, Chris. Definitely a good nomination for Fighter of the Year. For myself, I would have to go with Renan Barão. He became the UFC interim bantamweight title holder this year. He beat Uriah Faber to do it. He came into the WEC with the record of 23-1-1. His only loss was his first fight, and he'd gone on to win 23 straight with just one no contest. There were some questions about who he was fighting down there in Brazil. Can he really make it in the big leagues? Since he came to the WEC, he beat Cole Escovedo. He beat Chris Carriasso. He beat Brad Pickett. Then he came to the UFC. The win over Pickett was in the UFC, but he also beat Scott Jorgensen in the Affirmation Faber fight. And I mean, he is for real. I think he's like 28-1 right now. He's answered any questions that anyone would have. I mean, he's definitely legit. He's one of the best at 135, I believe. And so he gets my nomination for Fighter of the Year.
Wow, I also like that nomination as well. And all 3 of those guys, or 2 of those guys and the one girl, either way you look at it, all 3 of them have really made their impact felt on the MMA world more this year than any other, and it makes me excited thinking about, there's probably a couple fighters now who we might know about but not put too much stock in, and by the end of 2013 we'll be talking about them as our Fighter of the Year. Lots of up-and-coming guys. You got Gustafson and Roy McDonald, who just put great performances out at UFC on Fox 5. Really looking forward to seeing who will make their impact felt next year. We'll move along to the 2012 card of the year. Chris and I came up with just a shit ton of cards over 2012 that have been really amazing. For me, it's UFC on Fox 4. That was just top to bottom. That was such an amazing card. I was so happy that I got to sit down and watch that fight with some of my best friends who didn't follow the sport much, because those 4 fights on the main card, I believe they televised 4. Swick versus DeMarcus Johnson. Swick with a clever second-round knockout. Joe Lauzon with a beautiful triangle choke submission on Jamie Varner. That was just such a great progression as Varner tried taking him down. Joe going for the guillotine, sweeping him over, putting the leg through, and getting that beautiful triangle chokes. Really one of the best submissions of 2012 as well. You had, obviously, the main and co-main event, the light heavyweights, Machida knocking out Bader Cold, Mauricio Hua in a war against Brandon Vera that either guy could have won, but Hua ended up getting in the 4th round. That was my card of the year. What about you guys? Dave?
Excuse me. I'm going with UFC 146. I thought that card was awesome. I mean, it was all heavyweight main card. A couple fights got changed in and out of there. But, man, talk about knockouts. That card delivered. I think it was only 2 decisions on that whole card. Oh, sorry, 3 decisions on the whole card. Top to bottom, that was just a fun card to watch. You had the main card. We had Struve versus LeVar Johnson. Had Miocic versus Del Rosario. Nelson versus Herman. Velasquez versus Silva. And Dos Santos versus Mir. And you look at the prelims, we had that nice Dan Hardy knockout over Ludwig. Smelly Fireface Dalloway fighting Jason Miller. Who else was there? Jamie Varner, Edson Barbosa. Great fight. Then we had the Sass Angle appearance. Glover Teixeira made his UFC debut. And he beat the brakes off Kyle Kingsbury. Then we had even the first fight of the card, the Mike Brown versus Daniel Pindia fight. Good fight. Mike Brown came back. So yeah, I think it's my pick.
Powerful, Dave Beeland. Powerful.
Powerful.
Powerful. Hashtag powerful. Yeah, man, there's so many to choose from. For a year that we've had so many stinkers, I think that the ones that really delivered made up for that lack of, like, truly good cards. And like Jake said, we kind of, like, mulled through them. And last night I had a tie between UFC on Fox 5 and UFC 153. I'm going to go ahead and say UFC 146 in this case, simply based off the fact that it was riddled with changes. Like, that card went from
Matt
Overeem
riddled
versus
with
Dos
changes.
Santos. Hey, oh, powerful. Yeah, so, Overeem was supposed to face Dos
Powerful.
Santos. Velasquez was supposed to face, help me out here, somebody big, can't remember, Frank Mir. And then, and then they changed everything up, and I thought, like, wow, this is going to be a shitty card. But that card delivered in spades. So I'm going to go ahead and say 146, the return of Jamie Varner, as well as a bunch of great heavyweight fights. I think every single fight on the main card was a finish. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct. Every fight ended by knockout, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Steve
And
Miocic.
Struve sub LeVar Johnson.
Well, by a finish.
Yes.
By a finish.
No, P-Money said that it was all knockouts.
Oh, okay. So you're
Yes, I
correct.
stand corrected.
Patrick, go into the bathroom, cut your wrist, and lay in the bathtub. That was a fantastic card. It was really, really good. So 146 to me was the first time we had an entire main card of the same weight division, and it really, really delivered.
Yeah, it really did. 146 was probably my runner-up for card of the year. There were so many good ones, and in spite of all the injuries we had this year, there were some cards that maybe look kind of weak on paper, but on the most part, I really feel that every single card is delivered this year. It's been an awesome year for MMA. UFC on Fox 4 was fantastic, great finishes. I would have to go, and I know it's super recent, but honestly, UFC on Fox 5 has to be the card of the year. Starting from the Facebook fight to the Fuel prelims, it was just an outstanding event. Or actually, I think it was UFC on Fox prelims or FX prelims. Just some of the most savage ass whoopings, some of the best fights I've ever seen. Dennis Siever destroyed Nam Fan in one of the most emphatic, dominating fashions you could ever hope to see. We actually saw a 30-24 scorecard, which was very well deserved. I thought it should have been unanimous 30-24s. Darren Cruikshank, his absolute savaging of Henry Martinez, that internally decapitating head kick knockout that he pulled out. It was just savage. We saw Abel Trujillo just destroy Marcus Levasseur, just raped his body with the most horrific knees and elbows. There were just so many utter destructions, so many solid finishes. Main card was fantastic. I believe, the aforementioned Matt Brown over Mike Swick knockout on the main card. It was just fantastic. It delivered from top to bottom. It's truly one of the best nights of MMA I ever had the pleasure of enjoying.
Yeah, that was a really amazing card as well. Lots of awesome finishes. The main card definitely served up some, even though you did have a few decisions on that main card in the top 3 fights, all of them were very one-sided with McDonald Gustafsson and Henderson getting emphatic victories, and that sort of goes into, that was our favorite card of the year. What was your favorite fight? And Jesus Christ, I think through it, there were so many amazing fights. You had St. Pierre coming back and fighting Carlos Condit, getting rocked in the third round, but still winning a decisive win there. Like I mentioned before at that UFC on Fox card, Shogun Rua versus Brandon Vera. Two of our fighters of the year, Ronda Rousey and Benson Henderson, getting into all-out wars with Miesha Tate and Frankie Edgar, respectively. You had Korean Zombie versus Dustin Poirier. That was a hell of a match. But for me, my favorite fight, it was Demetrius Johnson versus Ian McCall 1. And God, it was so ironic that fight was the first card in UFC history where they put in place rules to where if it went to a draw, you would have gotten a sudden death round. And holy fuck, would that sudden death round have been amazing. We might have a different flyweight champion if the rules were actually brought out the way it was supposed to go, with Ian McCall roaring back toward the end of that fight. My favorite fight and moment that wasn't a finish was the end of that, where Ian's got Demetrius' back, just punching him in the face. That was a goddamn amazing war. It's really too bad the rematch was a little more one-sided. But even though my fight of the year goes to Johnson versus McCall 1, there were so many. I mentioned that Lauzon-Varner submission, Ellenberger Sanchez, just thinking of all the different fights. We had our buddy Miller from Arizona call up into our podcast last night, and his favorite fight was Silva-Sonnen 2. God, I'm leaving out Boach versus Okami, Condit versus Diaz. There were so many wars this year. What for each of you was your fight of the year in 2012?
Yeah, mine has to go back to UFC 147 when we had another catchweight 109-pound fight between Rich Franklin and Vanderlei Silva. Thank you. That was just a great 5-round war. I mean, you've seen both guys getting stumbled around, close to getting finished, hung in there. I don't know. That was just a classic fight for me. Being that Wani's one of my top favorite fighters, it was just a great fight for a kind of a boring card. That fight really capped off that card. So yeah, that's my pick.
Easily, when it comes to a fight of the year, it has to be the true embodiment to me of mixed martial arts, and the only way that you can do that is this fight. To me, has to touch every single aspect: clinch work, open range striking, kicks, punches, submission attempts, submission escapes, as well as takedowns. And the only fight that lived up to that this year that sticks out in my mind in the UFC is John Fitch versus Eric Silva. That fight embodies, the true warrior spirit. You had guy getting pummeled for a whole round. You had people really, getting out of tough spots, and you had striking and all the things that I just brought up. So John Fitch versus Eric Silva was fantastic. John Fitch is one of the most boring fighters in the UFC to a lot of people. To me, he's a grinder. We all agree. Like, we can appreciate the individual aspects of MMA, but when John Fitch fights, you go, okay, so it's going to be a 3-round grind. This was anything but, and that is why it's the fight of the year for me. This
was such a hard choice for me. It was so hard to even just think of what could possibly be the fight of the year. I ended up coming up with Mike Pierce knocking out Aaron Simpson in his welterweight debut. The first round of that fight, Aaron Simpson was just putting a curb stomping on Mike Pierce. He was looking real good. He was using his size. He was just beating Pierce from pillar to post, taking him down, jacking him up, standing on the feet, just cracking that jaw. He had Mike Pierce seriously hurt, and Pierce is quite he can take a punch. He went to a slugfest decision with Johnny Hendricks where they just standing and traded the whole time. So he came back in the second round and just savagely knocked out Aaron Simpson. It was a fantastic comeback. Always what I like to see in a fight of the year candidate, someone overcoming adversity. Boach over Okami, that was a great comeback itself, especially considering that was a 2-round ass whooping with a 3rd round comeback. But I just loved Mike Pierce's emphatic knockout over the much bigger Aaron Simpson. So in a year full of many great fights, I'll put that one down as my nominee for Fight of the Year.
Damn, I like all those. And I actually just threw out a little tweet to Ramses Singh if he wants to call in from the airport and let us know his favorite moments of 2012. Dave, did you want to throw out a honorary mention for Fight of the Year real quick?
Yeah, I wanted to mention the Julie Cadezi Misha Tate fight back at the Strikeforce. That's a fight that a lot of people forget. That was just an absolute war. I mean, if you don't like women's MMA, watch that fight. I guarantee you it'll change your mind. I mean, Julie Cadezi was beating the brakes off Tate, and she was hanging on. And then, what was it, round 4, I think? Or not round 4, round 3, she sunk the submission.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I think it was round 3. I think that's when Tate fought back and got the submission win.
Yeah, any fight where Misha Tate eats a savage head kick, I'm down with.
Yeah.
And if we're doing honorary mentions of fights, which a lot of fights do deserve mentioning, you had Marquardt versus Tyron Woodley. That was a great one. Belcher versus Paul Harris. Cerrone versus Gallard. A lot of, I was watching that, and I thought there was no way Cerrone would lose. Man, Gallard had him rocked, and Cerrone roars back for the first round finish. A lot of people don't think of the flyweights, but Louis Gaudinot versus John Lineker was an amazing fight too. What else? Sonnen versus Bisping. That was, I think, January of 2012. That was also an amazing fight. Anyone else have any honorary mentions? You have Melendez Thompson 3. That was a real back and forth one. God, there were so many great fights.
Korean Zombie versus Poirier.
Yep.
There was a Rustem Kalibov versus Vince Pichel. That one just happened. That was crazy with the multiple suplexes to finish off Pichel, followed up by some sick ground and pound. That was an insane fight, and also a finish of the year candidate for sure.
Chris?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Cruikshank, dude. You got to go with Cruikshank. The beating that he put on Henry Martinez was a one-sided Texas chili sauce competition beatdown. He was putting it down so much that I really feared for Henry Martinez's future. Going on a Ramses tangent here. He looked great. Spinning attacks, kicks to the body, kicks to the leg, punches to the face. Just all kinds of crazy shit going on in the octagon. And what makes it the performance of the year for me, as well as the finish of the year, was the fact that he sustained very little damage, and his performance before that was a wrestling clinic against Chris Tickle. That's what makes it stand out the most to me. Fantastic stuff.
Really great fights all around. Shout out to our boy Jay Jeans, whose favorite fight of the year was Boobs McGillicuddy versus James Head. That also was an amazing war at UFC. Boobs 53. Amazing fight, and this is where this podcast just starts to derail and get horrible now. But shout out to our boy Jay Jeans. But going from fight of the year, what was your favorite finish of the year, knockout or submission? You can just say your favorite finish or give your favorite knockout and your favorite submission. I'll go ahead and go with the verbose way to do it, because you know me, I love just talking ad nauseum until our viewer count is down to 0. Knockout of the year, even though there were a lot of good knockouts, the Pettis knockout, the Cruikshank knockout, I think all of us can agree viscerally that spinning wheel kick knockout by Edson Barbosa was phenomenal. My favorite submission of the year, even though last night when we were talking about it, I gave it to Charles Oliveira for that calf slicer. Really amazing technique. I was watching the countdown to UFC 155 last night, and even though I knew that was a great submission, they really broke Joe Lauzon's submission against Jamie Varner down, and it makes you appreciate the fuck out of somebody that slick on the ground. So I'm going to change my submission from last night. And my submission for submission of the night is Joe Lauzon, Jamie Varner. What about you guys?
My knockout, think I'm going to have to go with I mean, Sayer, Batrizala, when he freaking made Paulo Thiago plank right openly right in the middle of the freaking mat. That was just awesome. I mean, he just stepped back, threw that shot, looked like there was no power whatsoever behind it, and just straight out flat and made Paulo Thiago just plank head first right in the middle of the freaking octagon. Submission of the year, man, it's really hard to go against that calf slicer. That's the first thing I always think of when thinking about submission of the year for the past year. So yeah, I'm gonna have to stick with that.
Wow, powerful. I definitely will stick with Crookshank with that zombie decapitator high kick that he launched with his right leg. Can't beat that, man. Just a huge fucking finish for a brilliant performance. As far as submission goes, I haven't done my homework, but I brought this up last night. There was a finish on the regional circuit that happened within the last couple weeks where a guy did a flying inverted triangle, and there's no way that you are a sane person and think that you can get better than a flying inverted triangle in a fight. Haven't seen it. Fantastic stuff. Powerful Mayans. Hashtag Mayans.
You can get a boob slicer.
Yeah, definitely some solid finishes this year. For me, for knockout of the night, knockout of the year, I think it's got to be the Barbosa wheel kick knockout. That was just insane. The way Terry Edom fell was half of the greatness of it. He did the old taxi cab hail, fell down. Nick Denise standing elbows, that gets my honorable mention. For submission of the year, I'd probably have to go with Korean Zombie over Dustin Poirier, just because that was such a sick fight. And he ended up sinking in the super clean Darce choke after he dropped Dustin Poirier with some great uppercuts in the clinch. And to beat a fighter with their own signature move, I thought that was fantastic. So I'll give him the nod for submission of the year.
Ooh, interesting choices for sure. And I guess that sort of covers our favorite moments of MMA for 2012. But what was your favorite moment on the Roundtable in 2012? We're 12 shows deep, a lot of fun moments. We haven't had any guests necessarily, but we've had a lot of fun moments. Personally, man, I almost forget what it was. But Ray, God, this is a horrible podcast because I can't remember the joke. But anytime Ray cracks a dirty joke, because Ray is such the dapper, very polite, very clean,
huge
very
dick.
Huge, girthy. I mean, it's about as girthy as a saucer, about as tall as a Christmas tree. But Ray is very reserved, very clean. And even though it's not one individual moment, I love any time Ray drags himself down to all of our level and cracks a dirty, horrible joke. That is my moment of the year. What about y'all?
I'm gonna have to go with the coming of the Ramses. His wildly wonderful conspiracy theories.
Well, okay. Mine is a tie. The first one is going to be, I know, lots of ties here. Might as well be James Bond. I got so many ties. I really, really loved when I said MMA mental, and then Ray went, MMA mental. It just totally took the wind out of my sails. Came out of left field. Love that. And also, when Dave came on, I was notorious for cutting his ass off, like in some rush hour traffic. And then eventually he came back and said, yeah, don't pull a Chris and fucking cut me off when someone else did the same thing. It was beautiful.
Yeah, definitely tons of great moments throughout the show's brief history thus far. For the best moment of 2012, I think I'll have to go with Ramsey's Rich Franklin has a paper mache jaw comment. It was something to that extent anyhow, just insinuating that Rich Franklin has a glass jaw. And I must admit, the audacity of it just made me laugh out loud. I even saw we got a shitty YouTube comment from someone all butthurt over it, and I thought, that's fantastic. As long as we're getting a reaction and a rise, that's fine with me. I just thought it was beautiful. that we could get someone so pissed off to comment on that moment. So that's my moment of the year for the roundtable.
Real quick, before we move on, sorry guys to interject, but I remember that moment, and I'm going to do a Ramsey's impression here. So when that happened, he ended that rant with this.
You can take TV.
Rich Franklin, he's I don't know what he is. He's some kind of guy. He's a fighter. He's a teacher. Rich Franklin, go back to teaching math in Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you. Word on the street.
Word on the street.
Yeah, our brother Ramses, who is stranded in that airport, I actually just tweeted him, and he says if he is able to land in time, he might call in for some ridiculous takes. But yeah, he's always coming with something outlandish, making our listeners probably a little butt hurt sometimes, a little boob hurt sometimes. But it doesn't matter. It's really fun hearing all of that he's got to say. And yeah, it started off with just Chris and I from the MMA podcast and Ray and Patrick from MMA Mental, and it's been really awesome that our little Davey and our little Ramsey were able to come on the podcast and join in. Really, really feels like a whole family at this point. It feels like home.
Yeah, thank you guys. I definitely mirrored the sentiments of Jake. I think that we were doing good things with the podcast, with the roundtable, but having you guys on has made that little difference. It feels like when you tweak a car and it's running okay, but you put in those aftermarket parts and you got a fucking beast. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Oh,
no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep,
for sure. Yeah, it's fucking been quite amazing. You alright? And, one of those big stories of the year that I put out there is the demise of Strikeforce. And actually this past week, Strikeforce has come out to publicly confirm that, yes, they will be folding after this finale card. So, we're finally going to have all these fighters coming over. Gilbert, Nate, Rousey's obviously all already been signed by the UFC. You got who else? Diaz has already come over. Overeem's already come over. But we got Cormier. We got Rockhold. Tons of guys who are going to be in the UFC. And I want to throw out there, what fighter are you most looking forward to seeing in the UFC? For me, it's Nate Marquardt. He's been in the UFC as well. Was a dynamo in the UFC. We haven't seen him at welterweight yet in the UFC, though, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the waves that he can make. He sort of fits into the mold of the successful welterweight frame, an amazing wrestler with power standing up, and he's immediately going to make his impact felt in that welterweight title picture, along with the guys like Hendricks, McDonald, Ellenberger, St. Pierre, obviously, and a bunch of other guys. So my favorite fighter my fighter I'm most looking forward to seeing in the UFC is Nate Marquardt. What about y'all?
I might as well work in Macy's because you guessed it, it's a tie. We have another tie. And my choice for the fighter from Strikeforce to come over to the UFC is a tie between is a tie between Daniel Cormier and Luke Rockhold. These guys are savages, and I can't wait to see them inside the octagon. Powerful. Word on the street. Thank you.
Powerful.
Ramses? Was that Ramses on the set? All right. Nice cameo. For myself, fighter I'm looking forward to coming over most, it's got to be Daniel Cormier. He's got the Olympic level wrestling. He's got the striking that's really come about. He's got the solid hands, really everything you could look for in a top prospect at heavyweight, perhaps minus the size, but you know what? Heck, that lower center of gravity, that will help him in his wrestling. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. Definitely looking forward to seeing Nate Marquardt as well. Always a force, and definitely looking good at 170.
My pick is none other than Mr. Gilberto Melendez himself. For the past few years, he's been up there claiming to be one of the best lightweights in the world, if not the best, out of his own mouth and people from his camp. Well, now he gets a chance to make that happen. I personally think he's going to struggle with some of the top couple guys up there. Really would like to see him go to 145. I think that would suit him perfectly. He's got that smaller frame. Another guy I can't wait to see in there would have had to be Jagar Mawasi coming out of the light heavyweight division. He could spell a lot of trouble for a lot of the UFC guys. Whether or not he could beat Bones, I don't think he could, but it would be a hell of a fun ride watching him earn a title shot in the UFC.
Fuck yeah, it'll be God. You know, I think he only was talking about 145 because he thought Nate was going to win, and now he's challenging Benson. I think he'll probably only move to 145 if he loses a title shot. But man, Gil, you know, all of those guys are really keen. If anything, they were over there for too long. Really glad to see him move over to the UFC. A couple more topics before we get to guess that tweet and then break down UFC 155. Jose Aldo, you know, we're talking about people switching around weights. We were talking about it last week. I don't know if he's just trying to get in with it because it's the trend of the times. Top fighters talking about switching weight classes. You've heard Jones talk about moving to heavyweight. Silva talking about moving down to fight GSP or up to fight at light heavyweight. That Silva-Jones match is on the wish list of almost every MMA fighter. GSP obviously talking about moving up to fight Anderson Silva. If Rory McDonald puts himself into where he could get a title shot, we might see GSP move up. Aldo saying, you know, not really sounding like he's sure of either, saying he would like to fight at either 135 or 155, even though his title is at 145. I don't know if with all the challengers in each division he'd be able to do that unless he was fighting 7 or 8 times a year. Before we talk about where he should move, what weight class do you think suits him best? I think he's perfect at 145. 135, in my opinion, is out of the question because he's reportedly struggled recently with making that weight to 145. And he's sort of the same size as Frankie Edgar. You have these giant lightweights like the current champion Benson Henderson, who I don't think Jose Aldo would really be able to utilize as striking or jiu-jitsu against. So I say just stay put at 145, keep killing dudes, and keep letting your legacy grow. What about you guys? What weight suits Jose Aldo best?
I completely agree that featherweight is his home. I think that's where he needs to be. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. He's one of the best at featherweight in the world. He's destroyed pretty much everybody he's ever fought. You know, like you had mentioned, Jake, I think it would be really hard for him to get down to bantamweight. He's reportedly been having trouble, some 145 cuts. And 155, man, that is just a Shark Tank. I think we would really get to see where Jose Aldo sits in the pound-for-pound ranks if he were to make the move up. I think he would have a lot of tough fights. I don't know how well he'd do. I mean, I know he'd do well. I'm sure he'd be a good number of 155ers, but whether or not he'd be in the top 5, top 10 title contention, that would remain to be seen.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you guys too. Best weight class for him is definitely where he's at right now in the featherweight division. Just has to get a little bit better with his training and stuff, keep his weight down. But I personally think that's the best way for him. He's just straight up beat the shit out of everybody there. Just stay there, man. 155 definitely would be fun, but I think they'll get a little bit too big for him there. But it would be fun to watch him. Definitely not 135. Not to be the dead horse, but if he's already having problems getting to 145, what's 135 going to do to him? So, yeah, stick at 145.
Yeah, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but, I mean, let's look at, the obvious choice. Featherweight, he's the king. Bantamweight, he's had rough weight cuts. I'm kind of just mirroring your guys' sentiments. I think it would kill him. He would not look good at bantamweight. And lightweight is a land full of natural welterweights. Let's get real. Beyond Frankie Edgar, who at lightweight is a real, true lightweight? Pretty much none of them. I mean, every single dude that is at that weight division is either a natural welterweight or a small middleweight. So hell no does he have a chance of attaining that title. He could go in there and beat a lot of lower A-level, B-level fighters, but there's no way that he could beat Benson Henderson. Hell no. Stay at featherweight.
For sure, yeah. Featherweight really seems to be the right weight class for Jose Aldo. Do you think if he keeps on, getting these title defenses, he's, I don't know, maybe 3 deep now, I'm not quite sure, but should he move up? I think all of us agree that moving down is the wrong decision, but if he keeps on dominating, should he move up and fight, I don't know about for the title, but fight an exhibition match at lightweight? I think he should. Kind of similar to how Silva's moved up to 205 and fought Irvin, Griffin, and Bonner. I wouldn't mind seeing exhibition fights against guys who would be an interesting match against him. I would love to see, a Jose Aldo versus a Jim Miller, a Jose Aldo versus a Gray Maynard. I think those would be 2 amazing fights. Would you rather see him move up and take those exhibitions at lightweight, or just stay put at 145?
I wouldn't mind seeing him take some exhibition fights. Depending on where he gets in the featherweight division, he does have a lot of fights coming his way. I mean, we've seen some of the top 155ers now making their way down. I mean, heck, he's got Frankie Edgar to get through. Who knows how that fight's going to go down? That's probably going to be the toughest test he's had of his entire career. He's got probably wrestling on the level of Chad Mendes, and I'd say better boxing. So the prospects are coming at 145. Dennis Seaver's looking good. If he cleans those guys out, start testing the waters at 155. Why not? But there's some scary looking dudes coming out at that weight class. So they have to be careful about who he steps in against.
Yeah, I personally think, too, that he should definitely just stay where he's at. Like Patrick said, there's a lot of guys coming up in that division right now. It's definitely some fights there, new blood. You got Edgar, Korean Zombie, Seaver, all those guys looking very good. Except for, Edgar, since he's already getting the shot. But I think he has to stay there at least for another year, take those fights. If he does go to 155, I'd rather see him make the move permanently and build for a title fight instead of just doing exhibition fights. So yeah, that's my take.
Hey, it's kind of weird that a guy at the top of the division, in a division that is stacked at this point, would talk about moving up or down. I mean, dude, if you've cleared out the division and there's no guys on win streaks, on the horizon, sure, then you start talking about that. But like you guys have said, all those dudes, Lamas, you got Seaver, you got Korean Zombie, and don't forget about Cub Swanson here. Cub Swanson, even though he lost by that Ginsu knife double knee to the face, he's also on a 3-fight win streak, all by KO or TKO in the UFC. He's obviously much improved, so yes, he should stay at that weight class. Yes, he should dominate. He's got a lot of tough challenges ahead. If he actually goes out there and destroys all of these contenders, then he should start talking about moving up. And like Jacob brought up, super fights would be great. Imagine Aldo versus Pettis, Aldo versus Cerrone, stuff like that. Definitely agree.
Yeah, shout out to our boy Cub Swanson, straight from Patrick's stomping grounds. What is the name of that town again?
Palm Springs,
Gayville,
California, cuz.
Palm fucking Springs. One more topic I wanted to touch on before guess that tweet. Paul Daly arrested for assault at a bar, coincidentally right before he's going to fight War Machine, who's known for assaulting people at bars. The fight status against War Machine's in question now. And I want to pose 2 hypothetical questions to you all. In a bar brawl, who do you take, War Machine or Paul Daly? I take War Machine because he is like the Travis Fulton of bar brawls. I think he's like 170 25-6 with 14 no contests in local Applebee's and Bennigan's establishments. Man has quite a record of fighting in bars. So just because he is truly the war master when it comes to bar brawls, I give a edge to Mr. Copenhaver in a bar brawl. Patrick, bar brawl between War Machine and Paul Daly. Who do you have?
I've got War Machine for the same exact reasons. War Machine, like you mentioned, his rap sheet is extensive. As far as I know, this is Paul Daly's first time. You know, he's just dipping his toes in the bar fighting water. And War Machine, he's been swimming in that deep wake. So I've got to give the clear edge to bar fights.
I'll pass it along to you. Oh, Dave, you back?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, you dropped out of the call there for
Hi,
a second.
Davey. My little Davey.
We're talking about Paul Daly versus War Machine, not in a sanctioned MMA match, but in a bar brawl. Who are you taking?
Is this on me right now?
Yeah, this is on you, son.
No.
Strictly bar rules. I'm gonna have to go with that crazy fuck War Machine.
You guys are all idiots, and I'm going to point out why. Pretty fucking simple. This is a, kind of a opinion piece here, but do you guys not remember UFC 113 where Paul Daly threw that cheap shot left hook? Come on, son. Paul Daly is the kind of guy that would try and plead with War Machine. War Machine's drunk and angry, and then he'd throw that left hook and knock his ass straight out. Paul Daly, easy KO win in a bar brawl.
But Koscheck could just kind of put up his hand and brush it off
Well, that was after a 15-minute fight in the octagon. Imagine if Paul Daly was fresh, and I think War Machine would be drunk and Daly would be sober.
And imagine if he had a beer bottle in his hand as well.
And imagine if Steve Mazzagatti is there to ref it, and like usual, he would see nothing.
That's true. There would be literally zero witnesses to that one. Same two guys, Paul Daly and War Machine. Who do you have in a sanctioned MMA fight? Even though Daly, in my opinion, has a much better shot winning a sanctioned MMA fight, the only reason I'm giving it to War Machine is because the dude has never been finished via strikes. He has 4 losses on his record, three submission losses and a decision. And Daly does not beat guys by any other means than that left hook. If it goes to a submission or decision, Daly typically is not going to come out on the winning end. So for that reason alone, I have Mr. War, Mr. Machine, Mr. Copenhaver, whatever the fuck you want to call him. That's who I have. What about y'all?
Yeah, very good call. I'd probably have to go with War Machine as well, just because Paul Daly, he hasn't shown that well-roundedness. Yeah, I'd have to go with War Machine. And plus, I was very surprised he beat Roger Huerta after getting released from the clink. So who knows? He may just have that crazy drive going for him on his side.
I'm also going to have to go with War Machine again. Reasons you guys already stated, he's just a more complete fighter. We know Paul Daly barely could stop a takedown. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go with War Machine on this one, too.
War Machine shows up in shape with a gut. He still wins that fight. He's going to win that because he's got that well-rounded skill, son. Austin, Texas. Word on the street.
Another Word on the Street podcast representing the Ramses impression to the full extent. I guess that covers the news. Before we get to the prelims and the main card of UFC 155, Patrick, you have some tweets ready for us in this week's edition of Guess That Tweet?
Yes, son. Let's play Guess That Tweet.
It's all you, brother.
All right, gentlemen. Got a good selection of tweets for you this week. We've got 5 tweets plus 1 tiebreaker. So let's see where the chips fall. All right, first one. Question: how much blood has to come out of your ass before you get nervous? Scariest look down ever. Is the fighter A, Phil Baroni, B. Dean Thomas, C. Pat Barry, or D. Matt Serra?
Pat H.D. Barry.
Powerful choice for the sake of brevity, as Jake likes to say. Powerful Jake Walters. I'm going to go with Baroni. He's a dirty Italian.
Chris, I'm very sorry, but I want to say about 2.5 to 3 hours ago, I was taking an old crapperoonie, and I was checking my Twitter, as I oftentimes do, as I take a big old crapperoonie, and I saw this tweet. So I hate to spoil the fanfare and the suspense, Patrick, but I'm certain that this was, as Dave saw, Pat H.D. Barry. Sorry, Chris.
Oh no, that is correct. It is Pat Hyper Die Barry. Chris, very hyper die, although not off to a very hype start.
Fuck you guys and seeing shit on Twitter.
1-1.
Fuck
Chris
you guys.
0. All right, gents. Next tweet. Let's mix it up a little bit.
It's rigged.
This one. Certainly not rigged. Okay. Bit of Ghost. Hashtag gay, but still watching. Again, that's Bit of Ghost. Hashtag gay, but still watching.
Like the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze?
Correct, sir. Correct.
Okay.
Now, this is a British fighter. Was it A. Ross Pearson, B. Jimmy Manuwa, C. Michael Bisping, or D. Rob Sinclair?
Man, Bisping only tweets out shit about himself, so the other three are all fair game. I'll go ahead and say Rob C4 Sinclair. Why not?
Definitely going Sinclair. The reason why is he's right about Bisping. Pearson isn't really that creative. And who was the second guy? Out here.
Jimmy Manuwa.
Manuwa. Yep. Hell no. Sinclair. That's C4, son. Also a MMA Mental podcast alumni. You're dumb if you don't go for Sinclair.
I'm not going to be dumb, so I'm going to go Sinclair too.
Everybody gets a point. It's Rob C4.
Ding, 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 ding.
I've got a point. Doing the point dance.
Well played, gentlemen. Jake and Dave tied at 2. Chris on the board with 1. All right, third tweet. Hey, just want to say good luck to @JimMiller155 and @JoeLozon. 2 awesome guys and fighters. Wish both of them the best of luck. Was that A. Tyson Griffin, B. Diego Sanchez, C. Nam Fan, or D. Frankie Edgar?
Can you reread the tweet, please?
Yes, sir, Chris. The tweet was, hey, just want to say good luck to @JimMiller155 and @JoeLozon. 2 awesome guys and fighters. Wish both the best of luck.
And can you reread the options? Sorry, I know, I'm being a douchebag.
No, quite all right. That's Tyson Griffin, Diego Sanchez, Nam Fan, or Frankie Edgar.
Man, for some reason I'm thinking Nam Fan. I'm gonna go Nam Fan.
I also thought Nam Fan, but for the sake of faggotry, I'm gonna say Tyson Griffin.
Ooh, so it's Nam Fan, Diego Sanchez, Frankie Edgar, and who else?
T-Rex Arms.
Tyson Griffin. Little
Tyson Griffin.
Yeah. Diego Sanchez is all about positivity. He changed his nickname from the Nightmare to the Dream for some fucking reason. So, even though he is moving back down to this division at lightweight and could potentially fight either guy in the next year or so, I'll still go ahead and go with the Dream, the Nightmare, whatever the fuck you want to call him. He garners his power from the ocean. Diego Sanchez.
All right, gentlemen. Well, it was not Frankie Edgar. It was not Tyson Griffin. It was not Diego Sanchez. It was Nam Fan. It was Namfan. So now,
You know,
if
I
I'm-
give up. I give up. How about this? The next round, I'll just sit it out. You guys fucking play ball. I hate you.
Oh dear.
Little Chrissy.
Oh dear. Now, Dave, I believe that puts you in the lead with 3, Jake with 2, and Chris with 1.
It does.
So, okay, let's go on to question number 4. Me and my best mate under the rainbow on the Gold Coast of Australia. Slightly gay. Although I added that in just for reference. That was not a hashtag. But it was included with a slightly gay picture of 2 guys underneath the rainbow. So, was this A, Hector Lombard, B, George Soteropoulos, C, Seth Brzezinski, or D, BJ Penn?
Wow. All I've ever seen Penn tweet out is like week-old news stories. Lombard, I don't think it's possible for Lombard to look at a rainbow without going into a psychopathic rage, beating people up. So between G. Sot and Seth Brzezinski, I think you might be throwing a red herring out with George Soteropoulos just because he's from Australia and that's the Gold Coast and all that. I'd say it's between Soteropoulos and Brzezinski, and just because that Soteropoulos thing might be a bit of a red herring, I'll go with Brzezinski.
Chris,
Chris?
send this one out.
Fuck you guys.
Chris, just fucking pick. God damn it.
I actually wasn't listening the entire time, so for the sake of timekeeping, move on with that.
Great pod. Chris
Jesus
picks
Christ.
Lombard. You're a fucking animal.
All right. Give me the options. How about that? I won't even hear the tweet. Give me the options. I'm just gonna shoot in the dark. Let's do this.
Okay, our options are Hector Lombard, Soteropoulos, Seth Brzezinski, and BJ Penn.
I'm going Brzezinski.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Lombard and run away with it.
Okay, well, wasn't Soteropoulos, wasn't BJ Penn, was not Hector Lombard. It was Seth Brzezinski.
Yeah.
Chris,
See,
you
dumb,
son of a bitch
dumb,
with your
stupid
dark.
luck. That proves it.
Jesus
Dumb,
Christ.
stupid, idiot luck. It's all it is.
Okay, well, it's tied back up. Jake and Dave tied at 3. Chris back in the running with 2 points. Let's go to number 5. Let's see how this shakes out. Let's see if we're going into overtime. Okay, tweet number 5. Death isn't sad. There's nothing sad about it. Living a shitty life, that's sad. Who was that very inspiring tweet? Not depressing at all. Who was that from? Was it A, Mac Danzig? Was it B, Alexander Gustafsson? Was it C, Simeon Thorensen? Or was it B, our friend the War Machine?
I'm just gonna go with Thorson.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's not Thorensen, and it's not number 2. It's between Danzig and War Machine. War Machine never posts up like this. I'm gonna go Mac Danzig.
It was Danzig, Thorensen, War Machine, and who else?
Gustafson.
Gustafson. Yeah, Gustafson I've never seen tweet anything this deep. And between Thorensen, Machine, and Danzig, fuck, man. I feel like all of them are known for those sort of deep tweets. But War Machine gets deep, but I don't know if he gets that deep. Thorensen seems like sort of an obscure fighter compared to the other 3. But I remember seeing Danzig on the Rogan podcast just talking about some crazy deep shit. Between, you know what, fuck it. I'll go ahead and go with War Machine. Why not?
All right. Well, it was not Gustafson. It was not War Machine. And it was not Thorensen. We got a 3-way tie at 3 points.
Damn.
In the back.
I'm in it.
Oh.
Don't quit. Don't be a little bitch.
No, Chris, you've got to sit out overtime. Remember?
Oh, do I?
You quit.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll do that. Have fun, you guys.
Okay, no, there's none of that. This is crazy shit. Now, I believe since this is the overtime round, everybody has to pick a different.
Yep.
Fighter.
What order are we going in? Tell the order just so we all know.
Okay, I say let's start back with original order. Dave, Chris, Jay.
Okay.
All right. And the overtime tweet. This is hella legit. Only MMA will... Oh, terribly sorry. Will bring you into contact with people you never would have met. Happy holiday at MC Hammer. Was this Phil Davis, Forrest Griffin, Tyron Woodley, or Marcus Brimage?
Brimage.
Well, I also wanted to go Brimage, but fuck you, Dave, for taking that shit. So I'm going to say Phil Davis. Why not? He's black.
So I have Forrest Griffin and Tyron Woodley to choose from.
Yes, sir.
Honestly, when you said it, the only person I couldn't see saying that is Forrest Griffin. Not because he's white, but because I just can't picture Forrest Griffin saying the phrase hella legit. He's either making a rape joke or being serious about himself. So once again, not a race thing, but racist. I'm gonna go with T. Wood, I guess.
All right, well, you're correct, Jake. It was not Forrest Griffin.
So one of us got it. God damn it.
Phil Davis. It was not Marcus Brimage. Jake, son of a bitch.
Is that a three-way tie? Is that a three-way tie?
No, it was tied, and that was overtime, and I just took it, you
Jake
motherfuckers.
took it. You know what? This shit is rigged. I've had it. I'm going to take my mic off, and I'm going to go punch my own mother. I'll be right back.
Man, I guess victory speech, my 6th victory speech.
Stop it! We don't want to hear it. No.
Who do I want to thank? I want to thank Santa Claus for all the presents. I want to thank Jesus Christ for all the presents as well.
And the wine that was once water.
And I want to thank you three for your presence tonight. Everyone with multiple presents.
Hey. As I once said to TJ DeSantis, eat my little fucking butt.
Present it, and I will eat that little butt all day long.
I will.
Man, this is, I don't know why I win so fucking many of these, but now I guess the scoreboard, I have 6 wins somehow. Patrick has 2, Dave has 1, Ray has 1, Chris has 1, Ramses at 0. But
fuck
Chris,
Ramses.
you should be happy because with my beautiful array of knowledge, I've put the MMA podcast up 7-4 on MMA Mental.
And how about this? How about my comeback from, relative obscurity?
That actually was pretty good, yeah.
Win. Come on.
Made it a game.
Come on, people. Give me a round of applause. Come on, clap your hands.
Made it a game.
Clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands.
Part of me wants to retire so you all can go ahead and put my number up in the guest that tweet rafters, but I will stay in the game like fucking Michael Jordan after my 6th title. And thank you all for being my subservient bitches.
Yeah, you should actually sit the next round out and just feed me points on Skype. That's what we're going to do from here on out.
Points. Oh my god, that good times for me. All right, UFC 155 prelims. We got 9 cards actually to break down. 4 on the prelims, 5 on the main card. We'll break the prelims and main card up with our boneheads of the week. But let's start with the prelims. Todd Duffy returning to the UFC after a short stint to fight Phil DeFries. Who you got? Mine is simple. Todd Duffy. I feel like he's trained and learned a lot since losing to Mike Russo, who in his own sense is not a shabby heavyweight at all. I think Duffy, I don't know if he has the tools to get himself up into the top 10 of the heavyweight division, but I do think he has got the tools to beat Phil DeFries, and that's why I have him giving DeFries his 2nd career loss. What about y'all?
Yeah, I see Todd Duffy winning that fight as well. He's a huge heavyweight. He's a young cat. I think he's going to come back inspired back in the UFC. I think he'll get a TKO victory over Phil DeFries.
Yeah, I'm also going Duffy myself. Just never really been that impressed with DeFries. Duffy's definitely still pretty young. Went through that little bump with Russo. Fought over and got knocked the fuck out, and he bounced back and dismantled Neil Grove, who was a pretty tough fight. A lot of people didn't even think Duffy would win there, but he finished him within one. I think that was Grove's first knockout loss. I'm not 100% sure. But, yeah, I'm going to go with Duffy.
Hashtag Duffy wins. Hashtag domination. Hashtag too many hashtags. Hashtag training at AKA.
Hashtag unanimous decision. Todd Duffy, we've got him moving to 8-2 after defeating Neil Grove at Super Fight League 2. Next fight I wanted to get to was Michael Johnson versus Miles Jury. Miles Jury actually still undefeated. He's 10-0, but hasn't really fought a high-level guy. The only fight he has under his belt in the UFC is that TUF 15 finale win against Chris Saunders back in June. Michael Johnson, on the other side, has definitely fought a lot more impressive opponents. He fought Jonathan Brookins at that TUF 12 finale, lost the championship there, lost to Paul Sass by inverted heel hook, but since that October 2011 loss has won 3 straight against Roller, Ferguson, and Castillo. Been training over with the Black Zillions, and I think actually has, since joining the Black Zillions, has more UFC wins than any of the other guys training in there. And you have a lot of good guys with Anthony Johnson, Vitor Belfort, Overeem, Evans. One of the more up-and-coming guys in that Black Zillions fight camp, training with some absolute monsters, and both his camp being superior and the people he's fought being superior. I see Michael Johnson continuing to climb up the lightweight ranks. I've actually got him by a finish in this one. What about you guys?
Yeah, this is definitely one of those head-scratchers for fights when it was announced. I mean, you got Michael Johnson.
Come on!
He was pleading to get, a top-ranked opponent, and this is who they come up with. I don't understand why he would even agree for this fight. He wanted to fight, top 10 guys, and he's fighting, I don't even know if he considers Jury a top 20 guy. Not trying to dog Jury too much, but I think this is just too big of a step up in his career. He needs to be fighting, tough guys, stuff like that. I got Johnson, and then finish as well.
Chris, you're up.
Me? Okay.
Are you Manto?
I'm okay. I'm alright.
You all right?
Stop attempting to make me talk. It sickens me.
Yeah, Miles Jury definitely is in over his head. My gut says Miles Jury, but, my heart says Michael Johnson. I'm going to say Michael Johnson. He's on a tear. He has confidence. Miles Jury has never faced an opponent like Michael Johnson. So I got Michael Johnson in this fight by a finish in one of the 3 rounds.
I'd have to agree. I don't know about the finish, but I definitely think Michael Johnson, he's going to come out and take this fight. I do get that upset feeling with this one. I think Miles Jury, he doesn't have that intangible. I don't think he's that good. Heck, I didn't even think he'd beat Chris Saunders, but he did. And so I don't know if that in itself just has me placing a little doubt in my mind. But Johnson, he's progressed his game. He's looking real good. He overcame some adversity against Danny Castillo. I don't know if Jury will be able to put him in a bad way like that. I think I'll take Michael Johnson as well. Unanimous decision.
Yeah, all of us have got the same pick in that one as well. We'll move on. Jamie Varner versus Melvin Guillard. This will actually be a really close fight. It was supposed to be going down at UFC on Fox 5. It got delayed because Jamie Varner said he was sick. Guillard said he didn't think Varner was sick. He thought he was scared. I think this is going to be one of the closest matches of UFC 155. Varner has definitely looked very good. He had that huge upset win against Edson Barbosa at UFC 146, but then got tapped by Joe Lauzon. Melvin Guillard knows what it's like to get tapped by Joe Lauzon, being tapped out at UFC 136, which actually ended his 5-fight winning streak. Since that streak ended, he's gone 1-3. It will be very close, but you look at the guys Gillard's lost to, and I do hate using MMA math, but Lauzon, Miller, and Cerrone, Varner is not close to any of those guys, and, you know, Guillard almost beat Cerrone, even though he did end up getting KO'd a minute into the fight. He definitely rocked him. Varner doesn't necessarily have the best chin in MMA, even though I know he's never been finished by strikes, only lost by submission and decision. There's a first time for everything, and I don't know if Jamie Varner's ever gone up against a guy who hits as hard as Melvin Guillard does. So I'm going to go ahead and say Jamie Varner in the first round suffers his first KO loss in his career. I give it to Melvin Guillard. What about y'all?
Melvin Guillard definitely takes this fight. Jamie Varner had some steam in his sails when he beat the fuck out of Edson Barbosa. Then he got completely outclassed by Joe Lauzon. Melvin Guillard, excuse me, is no Joe Lauzon. He hits harder. He's explosive. He's hungry for a win. He's 1-3 in his last fights. I got Melvin Guillard in this fight by finish.
You know, this is a good fight. I think Varner will take this one. He has some underrated striking. He's got underrated wrestling. You look back to some of his losses. He also has losses to Donald Cerrone, and actually he has a win over Donald Cerrone, but he does have a loss to Cerrone as well. He does have a loss to Benson Henderson. I think he's a little underrated. I think he will be able to avoid the serious power of Melvin Guillard. Melvin Guillard's a great striker, but I think that Jamie Varner, he's going to be able to do it. He seems to be renewed since he started training with Benson Henderson, and I'm going to be picking him in what is a coin toss, especially if you look at the Vegas odds.
Dave?
I had Guillard back when this fight was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago. Got to stick with him again now that he has a little bit of fire underneath his ass from Varner trying to claim that he was greasing, and then you've seen how visibly upset he was when they interviewed him during the last event, and he was really pissed off about it. And then he said, all of a sudden that Varner gets sick now, so I think Gillard's definitely going to be aiming to knock his head off, so I'm going to stick with him winning again by knockout.
For sure, yeah. Going to be a close fight right there. And the last prelim fight we'll do before we get to the bonehead of the week, the year. I'm not sure which one we're going to be doing. We'll figure that out in the next couple minutes. Eddie Wineland versus Brad Pickett, bantamweight match. Both of them look really good. Both of these guys, explosive as all hell, probably have the hardest hits of the bantamweight division. But I'm going to go ahead and give it to Eddie Wineland. He looked amazing in his last fight against Scotty Jorgensen. And he is a friend of the show, so why not? Eddie Wineland.
I'm going to give it to Wineland as well. It's going to be a hell of a fight against One Punch Pickett. This is definitely going to be a late fight of the year candidate, in my opinion. Both have great striking, very good technical boxing. Brad Pickett definitely has some of the best takedowns coming from England. Eddie Wineland, he's really got some improved takedown defense over the years. And I like the slightly bigger Wineland to take it in this fight. I think he even has. I think he'll even get the finish over One Punch.
Well, good calls, everybody. I definitely have Brad Pickett in this. Eddie Wineland is a power puncher with great defensive wrestling. Has a history of Greco-Roman, grappling. Looks really good. He looked really good against his losses against Uriah Faber, as well as Joseph Benavidez, two fantastic mixed martial artists. But the one thing that has me leaning towards Brad Pickett is the fact that Brad Pickett not only can knock guys out, but he can sub them out. He's got a Peruvian necktie under his, under his bracket. He completely dominated Demetrius Johnson by wrestling. Nobody else has done that, not even Dominic Cruz. I think Brad Pickett has this well-rounded toolbox that will give Eddie Wineland fits. So I've got, Brad Pickett by a win in this. Can't really call it. Could be a decision. Could be a knockout. Could be a submission. And that's why I think Brad Pickett will win.
Way to cut off Dave again, by the way.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Oh, God damn it, Dave. I'm so sorry. That was the last thing I wanted to do at the end of your show. I'm so sorry, Dave.
You motherfucker.
I'm so sorry. I love you, dude. Please don't judge me.
Alright, well, this fight, I think I mentioned more towards Wineland. In my honest opinion, it's probably the toughest fight to pick on the card. As picking a winner. Like P Money said, it has a very strong chance of winning or coming in late with the fight of the year. This could be a 3-round war, or someone could get put to sleep. I just feel that Wineland, it's always been one of those top guys. You know, it's just missing a little something to get over that hump to be, you know, a true number one contender or possibly even be champion. Probably would have had to be wrestling. I don't think Pickett really likes to wrestle, so this has to be more of a stand-up game. I probably would give the edge to Wineland on this one, so I think I'm going to pick him to win in a decision.
Ooh, interesting call there. I like all those prelim fight predictions. I don't know why I got scrambled up saying that, but yeah, we got 5 fights on the main card, which we will get to in 1 second. Let us get to our boneheads of the week.
Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do, but it ain't nowhere to run. When judgment comes for you, when judgment comes for
Boneheads of the week. My bonehead of the week goes to Tito Ortiz. I don't know what the fuck is going through his mind. I don't know if it's all the painkillers he's guzzling. I don't know if he's still in a rage from beating up his porn star girlfriend. I don't know if he has just gone retarded since, quote, going out on his shield. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with him, but I guess he's a manager now, and he's managing Chris Cyborg Santos. Alright, first, you're going to tell Cyborg not to take the match. Which, whatever. You know, I've heard things coming from her camp that she apparently can't make the weight cut from 145 to 135 because she already cuts from like 160. Whatever. Alright, it's cool. Your fighter just got suspended for a year, and literally the only thing that's going to save her career is a fight against Ronda Rousey. So, great managing there. That's not what I have an issue with. It's with Tito Ortiz calling out the legitimacy of Ronda Rousey's belt. Now, Tito, let's look at this really quick. Ronda Rousey has fought some of the best females in women's mixed martial arts and beat them devastatingly. She beat Miesha Tate in the first round, beat Sarah Kaufman in under a minute. She has looked spectacular. And Tito, yeah, you did defend your belt 5 times. Who did you defend it against? A bunch of washed up cans, not really anywhere close to the top of the heap with the 205ers now. Tito, you're a fucking idiot calling out Ronda Rousey's belt, and you're my bonehead of the week. Dave?
I'm going to have to go with none other than Mr. Paul Daly Figure getting into that fight and now screwing up the Bellator welterweight tourney. I was really looking forward to seeing him make his debut, and it's really now putting a damper on their opening show for Spike. I mean, it wasn't the main attraction, but still, they're having such a solid card, and now he's out of it because he had to go ahead and get into a fight at the bar. So yeah, fuck you, Paul Daly, you dumb bonehead.
P-Money?
Oh, yeah, son. For my bonehead of the week, I'm going to go with Chris Lytle for saying he would come out of retirement to face a Nick Diaz type of guy. You don't want to come back from retirement. Here's why. He's got the John Elway riding off into the sunset. He's got a nice, he went out on a good note. He won a friggin' Harley-Davidson motorcycle. If I'm not mistaken, I think he got fight of the night with his fight against Dan Hardy. He was able to finish him in under 3 rounds. GSP went to a decision with this dude. It was a good showing, and you know, why come back? You can't really top that. Just, you know, stay retired. Chris Lytle's my bonehead of the week.
My
You got a bone?
pseudo. Oh, I do. My pseudo bonehead of the week is the American press, as well as old Republican Americans, conservatives that have created this society where being gay is something that is seen as wrong, and it's forced Dana White's hand. He actually came on, came out and said that he can't wait for more fighters to come out. And I quote, "I love it. I think what it's going to take is it's going to take some brave people. If you are gay, you're going to have to be brave. You're going to have to come out and say it." I think it's ridiculous that in 2012 we actually have to deal with a society that views gay as being something wrong or bad. Screw that. I mean, whoever you sleep with, that's your business. So my bonehead of the week is the American people at large.
Oh,
Fucking
shit.
stop it. You're dumb.
Shit, I actually really like that one, and man, I think I'm gonna nominate as that as my overall bonehead. It's gonna be a real cool thing seeing Rousey versus Carmouche. We have the first 2 female fighters in the UFC and the first openly gay fighter in the UFC, and it's about damn time. And I totally agree. It bums me the fuck out when people I know, you know, just bash on gays. You know, I do live in the South, so there are some friends and family of mine who are, you know, open about not, you know, being for gay rights. I had a grandparent recently, no fucking joke, be like, "I don't like that Modern Family because of the gays in it." And I'm like, really? Are you that fucking shallow of a person? Like, holy fucking shit. It really kind of amazes me that there are still people today who don't want to see homosexual people have the right to get married like everyone else. Yeah, it is a fucking shame. And, yeah, Chris, I'll go with your bonehead and pick those idiots who stand in the way of gay rights. Dave?
I'm gonna have to go with Big Head Tito Ortiz. He sounded like a damn fool for both of the things that he mentioned. First, with that stupid claim about Cyborg to possibly kill her cutting weight. I mean, she's, you know, had a year vacation so far. What the hell has she been doing? Yeah, more than time to drop that weight. You know, there's a great weight guy we all know is Mike Dulce, who pretty much any fighter he works with, they always end up making weight from there on out, as long as they follow his structure. And then for him to try to call out Rousey's belt, that's just plain out retarded. So yeah, I'm definitely going with Tito on that one.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead. I'll pick Chris's bonehead of the week as my nomination for bonehead of the week. Definitely a good call. You know, in this age, we've got people that are still so close-minded as to gay bash like that, and that's not what we like. That's not what we're about. So let's put an end to that shit.
I'm going with Jake's call. I mean, Tito Ortiz, even though he's fucking dumb as shit, and he was Affliction MMA's, kind of interviewer, and had a really, really, really horrible career with that. To say that Ronda Rousey, you know, isn't the true champ and has had hasn't really defended her belt, and she's ducking Cyborg, that's fucking stupid. I think that Paul Daly obviously is a good choice. Chris Lytle coming out from retirement, you know what? That's his call. That's a personal choice. So I'm going to go ahead with Tito Ortiz. That seems like a bonehead move.
And like it seems like happens almost every time we do our Bonehead of the Month, we have a tie between Tito and the American public for our Bonehead of the Month. And yeah, let's get straight to the UFC 155 main card. We got Chris Lieben taking on Derek Brunson. Middleweight scrap between 22-8 Chris Lieben, returning from his UFC suspension to fight 9-2 Derek Brunson, replacing Carlos Vimola. Personally, I see Lieben, who originally, like I said, wow, I just fucking said that, was going to fight Vimola. The guys it seems like Lieben loses to is at the top of the pack of the middleweight ranks. I don't have his fights in front of me, but I don't see him losing to guys as down the rung as Derek Brunson. And I've got Lieben returning with a victory. I think the UFC knows that Lieben is very marketable and matched him up against Brunson for the victory, and that's why I have Lieben winning this one.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Lieben winning this one, Jake. I think Derek Brunson, he's a good prospect. He's coming out of Greg Jackson's MMA, if I'm not mistaken. But Lieben just might be a little bit too much too soon. Lieben, of course, he's coming off a long suspension, though, so it'll be interesting to see how that factors into this fight. And it's very interesting. Chris Lieben looks really in shape for this fight. If you look at some of the pictures he's been putting out on there, putting out on Twitter and what such. I don't want to say that he looks exactly like he does every time. Like, if you look at his pictures now, he looks the same way every time he pops dirty for steroids. Hopefully that won't be the case after his fight with Derek Brunson. But, I'll take Lieben in this one.
It's a pretty easy call for me. I think that Chris Lieben on his worst day, on painkillers, Xanax, and out of shape, still beats Derek Brunson. I got Chris Lieben in this by emphatic KO.
Dave, you back yet?
Oh, yeah. Definitely going the crippler here. Brunson, come on, he just got knocked out by Jacare. That guy is not known for his knockout power. He's that 6'6" submission guy, and he gets freaking floored by Jacare. Lieben's going to do the same exact thing to him. Knockout.
For sure. Lieben versus Brunson. Brunson was the guy who originally was going to be on this season of The Ultimate Fighter and was blocked by Strikeforce, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so kind of both guys coming over a little bit of adversity, but Lieben obviously has a lot more MMA under his belt. He has 30 fights where Brunson just has 11, and I think with that experience, he'll be able to overcome and defeat Derek Brunson. Another middleweight fight, two of the second of the three that lead off this card. You have Yushin Okami at 27-7 fighting Alan Belcher. Man, their first fight was an amazing war, and this one's going to be just as good. Both of them coming over a little bit of adversity like the last two guys. You have Okami, who just beat highly overskilled Buddy Roberts after losing 2 in a row to Anderson Silva and Tim Boach. Alan Belcher, he did face a little bumps, a little far back, but homie hasn't lost since 2009. He's on a 4-fight win streak against Wilson Govea, Patrick Cote, Jason McDonald, and an amazing fight against Husumir Palhares, where he put his leg out there, which is a dangerous move against the leg lock champ, but still was able to get that TKO finish. I'm gonna be rooting for Alan Belcher because he's the consummate underdog. He's got a really great story, but these judo guys, guys like Lombard and Dong Young Kim and Yushin Okami, judo is a very undervalued skill in mixed martial arts. I do think of Yushin Okami as one of the top guys in the middleweight division. Belcher is too, but I have Okami winning this one by a decision. What about you guys?
Probably the second hardest fight to pick on the card. I never saw the first fight. It was a little bit before my time.
What?
I didn't start getting in until Brockman's debut. But I don't know. This is a real tough one for me. I probably gonna have to side with Belcher. He's Seems like he's has more momentum on his side. Okami had that little shitstorm he had with those 2 fights, losing. Got the rebound with beating, Buddy Roberts. But I'm gonna have to go with the talent on this one.
Yushin Okami to me is the perennial number 2 at middleweight. Even though he's fallen off the radar, the guy has the skills to, really back up that ranking. I mean, he's a supersized middleweight with wrestling for a Japanese fighter that's kind of, 1 in a million. Fantastic boxing skills as well. But if we look at the track record, Alan Belcher technically should be undefeated all the way back to 2008. He lost to Jason Day, beat Ed Herman, and lost a close fight against Yoshihiro Akiyama, a fight that Joe Rogan said, he got robbed from that victory. So to me, Alan Belcher is undefeated since 2008. The guy's looked fantastic, turned his career around absolutely 100%. He was hit and miss. He'd beat guys that you expect him to beat and lost to guys that you wouldn't expect him to lose to. But at this point in their careers, I've got Alan Belcher. I think Alan Belcher is going to absolutely mop the floor with Yushin Okami. I think it's going to be a second round finish for Alan Belcher. Yushin will control the early part of the fight. Alan's going to turn it over and make Yushin quit. So I got Alan Belcher, second round finish.
Ooh, I like that prediction. I definitely think this fight is about the career trajectories. If you plotted these out on a line graph, you would see Yushin Okami's stock steadily falling down. I think it's part of the Anderson Silva effect. Ever since he got destroyed by Anderson Silva in their rematch, he struggled. We saw him lose a fight he was easily winning against Tim Boesch. He got knocked out. And even though he beat Buddy Roberts, he damn near got knocked out. Buddy Roberts, one of the most unskilled guys, a prospect we would probably never see in the UFC if it were not for these short notice injuries, all these late replacements. He damn near got knocked out. He's on his way down. Belcher, I think he's on his way up in spite of his injuries. He's made a lot of improvements in his game that we've seen. I like him to get the knockout in this fight as well. I'm thinking first round knockout for the talent.
Wow, I never really thought of it in that terms, as kind of looking at both guys' trajectories of their careers. That's pretty interesting. But we'll move on to the third fight from the top. Costa Philippou taking on Tim Boesch. Originally supposed to be Chris Weidman taking on Tim Boesch, and Weidman's teammate in Costa Philippou, who's 11-2, is going to take him on. Man, this is honestly going to be just as intriguing as a Okami versus Boesch, or sorry, a Weidman versus Boesch match. Both of them have some really interesting wins on their career. Both of them are 4-0 in the UFC middleweight division. Tim Boesch, since moving down to middleweight, has defeated Grove, Ring, Yushin Okami, and Hector Lombard. Costa Philippou hasn't really beaten the quality of opponents, and George Rivera, Jared Hammond, Corey McGee, and Ricky Fukuda, but he is just as dangerous. In my opinion, what it's going to come down to is the wrestling of Tim Boesch. If Tim Boesch can use that redneck judo and wrestling to put Philippou on his ass, then Boesch will win this fight. But if he can't, and there's a good chance that he can't, as Philippou's been training with top wrestler Chris Weidman, if he keeps it standing, Philippou's one of the best boxers in that middleweight division. Even though Boesch has an inch of reach and height on him, Konstantinos Philippou is a dangerous guy standing up. Looking at those fights, though, since being in the UFC, Boesch obviously has more fights on his record. Dude is 8-1 in his last 9 fights. His only loss coming to Phil Davis by Kimura. Costa Philippou, equally as impressive. He lost his first fight and since then has gone 11-1. But I actually went back and rewatched that fight against Nick Catone at UFC 128, and unless Costa Philippou has improved greatly since that, I don't think the man who hails from Cyprus and Greece is going to be able to get over Tim Boesch. He was outclassed in that UFC 128 fight, and I see Boach being able to lock him up, get a lot of clinch work in, toss him, get him down, and Tim the Barbarian Boach getting the unanimous decision victory.
Beautiful fucking breakdown, man. I gotta say, that's like top 5 breakdowns you ever done. That was thorough, to the point, fucking awesome. Let's just go ahead and look at these guys from a outside perspective. Costa Philippou has looked awesome, but guess what? Tim Boach has looked even better against more refined competition. And even though his last fight was a stinker against Hector Lombard, Tim Boach has faced Matt Hamill. He's faced off against a lot of really good guys. Costa Philippou can't say the same. Jorge Rivera is his key win. So I definitely have Tim Boach in this one, even though Costa has some of the best, most refined boxing in the UFC. Tim Boach is one of those guys that not only is an animal, somebody that I've looked at for a long time, but he's refined his game under the tutelage of Matt Hume in Washington. So Tim Boach will definitely win this fight. I see him winning by a finish. You can't put a price on having spent most of your last fights against top competition, which Tim Boach has done, and Costa Philippou has not.
Powerful Matt Hume.
Ooh, very going out on a limb there, Chris, with the definitive statement for Tim Boach. I'm going to have to side with Costa Philippou in this one myself. You guys both mentioned the striking, which I think many of us would concede that favors Costa Philippou in this fight. And he's shown some good takedown defense as well. The only question for me is Tim Boach. He's a very strong middleweight. Will Boach be able to just power through the takedown defense and force Costa Philippou to the ground? We've seen him use his redneck judo. He landed a super sick hip toss against Nick Ring, just one of the most picture perfect hip tosses we could probably ever hope to see in mixed martial arts combat. He's got some tricks up his sleeve. However, I'd like to think that Costa Philippou, training out of the Serra Longo camp right now, I think he will be able to navigate the wrestling and the takedowns of Tim Boach, and I think he'll be able to land a TKO of himself. I mean, we are talking about a guy who was TKO'd by Matt Hamill. Granted, that was some time ago, but I like Costa Philippou in this one.
I really think Boach is going to get the decision. Jake broke down the fight beautifully. It's just, I think it's going to be more of a grappling. Boach is just going to sit there. It's not going to be a pretty fight. It's not going to be an exciting fight. I think it's just going to be a grind-out decision victory for Boach. I really don't see it being any fireworks in this one. Philippou does have a chance if he lands some clean shots, but I think Boach is going to be well prepared for this and is just going to wrestle fuck him.
For sure, yeah. It's if Boach is unable to get that clinch in, get that takedown in, Philippou will have the chance. But I haven't seen Costa Philippou be able to prevail against a guy who wants to clinch and take down as much as Tim Boach. So we'll move on to the main event in the co-main. We got Jim Miller versus Joe Lauzon. Man, this is going to be a war. Both of them grapplers. Miller, the wrestler. Lauzon, the jiu-jitsu specialist. Who you got? Man, just thinking about it. Looking at both guys' record, very, very impressive. Miller in the last, since losing to Gray Maynard in 2009, he's gone 8-2, only 2 losses against top guys, Benson Henderson and Nate Diaz. Both the 2 guys who just fought for the title. Joe Lauzon, only loss recently since going 3-1 is against Anthony Pettis. I don't know necessarily who to pick. Fuck, you know what? I'm so torn on this. You all lead off, and I'll finish up after y'all.
All right. Well, for me, this is another fight. You look at the Vegas odds. Vegas has this one pretty much even, and that's kind of how I see it as well. Miller's only losses are coming to top flight guys in the form of Gray Maynard, Frankie Edgar, Benson Henderson, and Nate Diaz. All top guys. Joe Lauzon, not so much. He does have some questionable losses on his record. However, styles make fights. We know it's not all about what's on the records. Joe Lozon does he's got a lot of the same traits that Nate Diaz does. Being Jim Miller's most recent fight, which was a loss to Nate Diaz, he's similar in the sense he's a taller lightweight. He's got some good striking, a good all-around arsenal, and he does have a good submission game. However, Jim Miller, prior to Nate Diaz, nobody had finished him. He's infinitely durable. He's got a great skill set himself, great wrestling. He's really put his hands together well lately. Super tough fight to call, but I'm going to have to go with my boy Jim Miller to grind this one out.
Yeah, I'm with the good old P Money here. I definitely think Joe Miller's going to get the win too. Neither guy really is that impressive on the feet. Both are pretty good on the ground, but I just think Miller's extremely better. Obviously, he's got the black belt, whereas Lozon's only got the purple. In jiu-jitsu, P Money also brought up the fact that, Nate Diaz was the first guy to ever finish Miller. I really don't see Lozon being able to do that. Strictly stays on the feet, he could probably grind out the win, but I don't think Miller's going to let him do that. I think he's going to be on the ground, keeping it, trying to finish him. I'm torn on whether Miller's going to win by sub or by decision. Probably go the safer route, and I'll have to say decision. Victory for Jim Miller.
Powerful. So I'm going to go ahead and break this down real quick the way that I see it in my head. These guys are very well matched. Jim Miller has a more diverse striking game. He uses knees, he uses kicks, punches. He's very aggressive. Joe Lozon, in his own right, is aggressive as well. But the difference between these two fighters is that Joe Lozon, he uses timing, scrambles, and mistakes more on the ground than Jim Miller does. And on top of that, Joe Lozon has the kind of style that finishes. Jim Miller does as well, but the one difference between the two guys is that clinch range. Joe Lozon will use short, perfect punches, whereas Jim Miller uses wild shots. So it's really hard to call this fight, and for once in the history of the podcast, I'm going to go ahead and say I have no idea who's going to win this. I really don't. I think that Jim Miller is stronger than Joe Lozon. I think that Joe Lozon is better at Jim Miller in different areas, but it's really hard for me to pick someone.
Yeah, for me, the X factor is going to be how much these losses affect Jim Miller. He's 1-2 in his last 3. If Miller is able to rise above this, like I believe he will, just looking at both guys, you have Lozon, who is extremely aggressive, always looking for a submission. All 22 of his victories by finish, 18 by submission. He is an aggressive fighter. Miller, not as aggressive, but still, has a pretty good finish rate. 15 of his 21 finishes are by finish. But what it comes down to is Miller, I think, is too good of a fighter to be tapped out by Joe Lozon unless Lozon is able to rock him like Nate Diaz did at UFC on Fox 3. I believe it was 3. The only reason Diaz was able to get that guillotine choke in wasn't because Jim Miller wasn't seasoned enough grappling. It was because Diaz rocked him. Diaz is much more dangerous standing than Joe Lozon is. Looking at it the opposite way, obviously Miller is going to want to keep this one standing. And, this is a prime candidate for fight of the night, obviously. And if Miller's able to clip Lozon's been tapped before. I actually think we might see Miller clip Joe Lozon and be able to sink in a submission and a victory. And before we move on to the main event, how close do you think the winner of this is to a title shot? You have, Miller and Lozon both at the top of the lightweight division. The champion, Benson Henderson, I've heard it rumored that the next title shot's going to go to either Melendez or the winner of Pettis versus Cerrone. When you all look at it, I think both guys are at about equal footing now in the UFC, so either guy, whether it's Miller or Lozon who wins, should be equidistant from the UFC title. I think you give the winner of this fight a number one contendership fight. I say the winner is just one more fight away from a title shot. What about you guys?
For myself, I don't think they're that close to the title. Like you mentioned, Jim Miller, he's 1-2 in his last 3. Before that, I think he had an 8-fight winning streak or something to that effect going. Everybody was 7-fight. He had a 7-fight win streak going. Everybody was rallying for him to get the title shot when he was on that win streak. I think even if he wins this one, he's got to win just a couple more to get him back into contention. As for Joe Lozon, he's been fairly hit and miss in his career, hasn't put together too many big streaks or anything like that. If he wins this fight, which he very well could, if he wins it, I think he would need at least 2 other victories before he were to get a title shot or a number 1 contender spot. I mean, there's so many guys at 155 right now. It's deep.
Yeah, I would have to say that both guys are both a few fights away from a title shot. Miller's definitely higher up than Lozon. Miller does win. I think he needs at least 1 more, possibly 2 more. Lozon definitely is in the 2 to 3 fight more before he gets it. If Miller does win, wouldn't maybe see that Diaz rematch. But then again, you never know because Diaz does finish him. Like he will be looking for an opponent, so why not? But yeah, definitely a few fights each before either one of them is considered number 1 contender.
I'm on the actual opposite end of the fence as Patrick there. He said that he feels that, that Miller is closer than Lozon. And if it was, a couple fights ago, I'd agree. But the fact is that Joe Lozon has finished off, Jamie Varner, who finished off Edson Barbosa, you know what I mean? And that's a big time deal. Jim Miller is not looking too great. He's 1-2 in his last 3. So I do not feel that Jim Miller is more deserving of a title shot. I think that Joe Lozon, if he wins this fight impressively by a finish, he will get a number 1 contender fight. I feel that if Jim Miller wins this fight, he will have to fight a couple more. By UFC standards, probably not too many, maybe 1. But in my own personal humble opinion, I feel that Joe Lozon is closer than Jim Miller.
Yeah, very true. Man, this man and co-man are going to be awesome. And I think all of us have been waiting for this rematch since it happened. Let me throw in a drop real quick, because it is going to be time whenever both of these guys face off. I cannot wait.
Same.
Oh, yeah.
All right, sorry, I just need to throw in a Bruce Buffer. It's time drop real quick, and it will be time this Saturday. I guess it'll be, around 11:30 Eastern. Fuck, man, it's going to be great. 2 guys with 1 loss on their record. You have the 15-1 champion, Junior Dos Santos, taking on Cain Velasquez, who's 10-1. His only loss coming to Cain Velasquez. His only loss coming to Junior Dos Santos. And he is, both of them have one impressive fight since their first stanza. Dos Santos beating up Frank Mir, Velasquez beating up Antonio Silva. Very simply, who you got? Sort of like the Boach Philippou fight. I think this is going to come down to whether Cain can take Dos Santos down, and I think he can. Dos Santos has only fought 2 prime wrestlers in his career, Shane Carwin and Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez is the better wrestler of the 2, even though Carwin is, giant and has a ton of strength. Velasquez is the best wrestler he's fought, period. And the first time they fought, it only went, I think, 64 seconds. Velasquez reportedly had a bum knee, and wasn't able to get in the shot. I heard it was reported that the reason he didn't go for any shots is because of his knee. I hear his knee is 100% for this one, and we've never seen somebody with this level of ability try to take down Junior Dos Santos. And you know what, guys? Even though I'm more of a fan of JDS, personally, I think of this as a win-win, because if Dos Santos wins, I'm a fan of his. I've been rooting for him since the Verdum fight, since before then. Velasquez wins. It's it's a win for me, because if Velasquez takes the championship, I believe because he trains with Daniel Cormier over at AKA, I believe Cormier has been talking about moving down to 205 pounds because he does not want to fight his buddy Kane. And God, seeing Daniel Cormier at 205, I legitimately think Cormier would be more of a danger to John Jones than Anderson Silva. Cormier tossed around Josh Barnett like you would see Brock Lesnar tossing around John Dodson. It was just a brilliant, brilliant show of wrestling. I really think Cormier is in the top level of MMA wrestlers with your George St. Pierre's, your Chael Sonnens, your John Joneses. And God, I would love to see Cormier back at 205. But back to the fight, I think it's going to come down to wrestling. And it's not only if Junior Dos Santos can fend off the takedown, but once he's down, if he can get out. Because it's not the takedown that's going to lose the fight for you, Junior. It's that ground and pound, that deadly ground and pound that Cain Velasquez can dole out. Can Junior get in a shot before the takedown happens? Of course, Junior's one of the best boxers. We've seen Velasquez rocked before. He was rocked in the Czech Congo fight, obviously rocked in the Dos Santos fight. This is a razor close one for me, and even though I love Junior Dos Santos, I have Cain Velasquez winning this one by second round, ground and pound. What about you guys? Patrick?
Yeah, kind of in the back of my mind, in their first fight, I had picked Junior Dos Santos for a first-round knockout. I was swayed by the hype. Everybody was saying Velasquez, he'd get the takedown. He's got this great cardio for heavyweight. He's one of the best wrestlers, blah, blah, blah. But in the back of my mind, I believed Junior was going to win it. I ended up picking Cain and rolling with the hype train, and I paid the price for that, and Junior knocked him out in 64 seconds. Healthy or not, bad knee or not, I really have no reason to believe this fight will go any different. No one's come close to taking Junior Dos Santos down. We saw what he did to Shane Carwin. He just destroyed his face. He's ruined pretty much everybody he's fought, including Cain Velasquez, like it was nothing. Like I said, I don't think there's any reason this fight will go anything different. I'm taking Junior Dos Santos to retain his belt with the first round knockout.
Powerful Patrick Johnson.
Powerful.
Johnson in my mouth. Anyways,
Powerful.
So,
Hey, wait, Matt,
Shut up.
you're
Shut
cutting
up.
off Dave again, you son of a bitch.
did I really?
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Cunty.
You should keep up the rundown.
My
Shoot,
dick is
mine.
built like my head.
I
But yeah,
did that one on purpose.
we're definitely going with JDS
Twatty.
once again. No questions about it. Kane could claim injury the first time. I don't really care. He's going to do the same thing, be hesitant because he doesn't want to rush in. Because he rushes in, he might get an uppercut to the face. I just see JDS just waiting for his opportunity. He's going to unload on him, hit him again. It might take more than one shot this time, but he's definitely going to finish him once again in the first round.
And I'm gonna remain silent for a second. Let's all take a second for Dave. I'm sorry.
Powerful.
Okay, so-
Powerful.
My pick for this fight is, it's pretty rough. I actually saw a breakdown by Jack Slack on Bloody Elbow that kind of showed that Junior Dos Santos never moves horizontally. He always moves vertically. He always moves on a line from front to back. He's always moving in forward or backwards. He circles out, but when he's striking, he always moves in a line. I think that is a prime candidate for him to get taken down by Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez knows he has to use his wrestling. I think that Cain is going to up the ante with his wrestling in this fight. And I think that Junior Dos Santos will get taken down, pop back up. He's going to frustrate Cain Velasquez and get a third round stoppage, son. Powerful. Austin, Texas. Ramsey's. Word on the street.
Powerful. And the last thing I wanted to throw around the roundtable before we sign off for 2012, Alistair Overeem's taking on Bigfoot Silva. We've talked about that fight, and all of us see Alistair Overeem winning that fight, especially after seeing Bigfoot Silva get his ass served to him on a platter from Cain Velasquez. I think most of us, or all of us, do think that Alistair Overeem will fight the winner in the I don't know when it'll be, but man, Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez, which do you think poses a greater threat to Alistair Overeem? I do think both guys would be an underdog to Overeem for different reasons. Overeem, obviously, a more versatile striker than Dos Santos. Velasquez, you look at Overeem's record. Overeem hasn't lost to many wrestling guys. Most of his losses are to jiu-jitsu guys. When I look at it, this is why I think Junior Dos Santos is more of a threat. Cain Velasquez, I don't think he'll be able to get Alistair Overeem down. Alistair Overeem has better takedown defense than Junior Dos Santos, and I believe will keep the fight standing. If he keeps the fight standing versus Cain Velasquez, he will defeat Cain Velasquez. Junior Dos Santos and Alistair Overeem, even though Overeem will obviously try and keep the distance for kicks and knees and the occasional clinch, Dos Santos, I think, has a greater threat to beat Alistair Overeem just because of that one-punch, lights-out hit that he can land. Overeem's lost a few fights by KO. Doesn't have the best chin in the world. It's not bad, but you're always susceptible to that JDS knockout. So I think JDS is more of a threat to Alistair Overeem. What about you guys?
I'm with you. I think Junior's definitely a bigger threat to Alistair Overeem. He hasn't lost by knockout since moving up to heavyweight. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you start injecting steroids and horse fat into your neck to the point where you really don't have a neck. I mean, there's no way for your brain to snap back and to get rocked or get concussed when you're that roided to the gills and you just have these jacked shoulders. But JDS, he's got that power where it doesn't matter if you don't have a neck. He will just knock your fucking block off. And I don't think Overeem's going to be able to get it to the ground against Dos Santos. I think Dos Santos won't be scared like Brock Lesnar was. He was clearly scared in that fight. If he would have committed, he probably could have done better against Alistair Overeem. I would probably even pick Junior Dos Santos to beat Overeem. I think he's definitely the better matchup. Cain, I think he'd get knocked the fuck out pretty handily.
Yeah, I have to go the same. I definitely think JDS is the bigger threat. Just with the knockout power that he possesses and his boxing skills, plays right in Overeem's style, and we all know what could happen to Overeem from his earlier parts of his career with him getting knocked out. Cain has that wrestling, but Reem, I think, has decent takedown defense. He's gotten a lot better with it. That's really only Cain's way of winning. I don't think he'd be able to sit there and trade blows without getting knocked out himself.
Wow. Powerful, Dave Bueland. Kind of sticking with what I've been doing all podcast long. I'm going to say it's a tie. It's kind of like pick your poison. With Junior Dos Santos, you have that one punch power we've all been talking about all night. It's really scary, and the way that he can explode into his strikes, it's a problem for Alistair Overeem. That guy can take a punch. I mean, in K1, he took a flush Badr Hari head kick. I don't know if you guys keep up with K1, but Badr Hari is taller than Alistair Overeem, a better kickboxer, and he took a head kick from Badr Hari and didn't even fall all the way over. But on that same token, Cain Velasquez is way shorter, better wrestling, so Alistair Overeem is susceptible to that takedown. So I can't really choose someone that I would say is a greater threat. I think they're equally a threat to Alistair Overeem, and I think that Alistair Overeem could beat both of them. And that's where I'm gonna go ahead and end this rant.
For sure, yeah. Both of them. It's not necessarily cut and dry. One guy or the other guy is better. And I guess that wraps up all the topics we wanted to cover. Before I send it out, Chris, Patrick, Dave, you all have any thank yous or any shout outs you want to get off your chest before we end our string of 2012 podcasts and return January 3rd for next week's Roundtable? I'll start off with you, Dave.
Shout out to the listeners.
Short but sweet. What about you, Chris?
I'll tell you what, man. I'm going to go ahead and shout out all my friends through this year. Family, they say it's as blood as thick as or water as thick as blood. I can't even think of it.
Blood is as thick as semen. That's
exactly.
That is
I'm not going to thank my family. I'm going to go ahead and thank the people that have really made this year fun, possible, and progressive. So I'm going to thank you, Jake Walters, Patrick Johnson,
Powerful.
Dave Beeland, Ray Thompson, as well as Ramses. Thank you all for making this, a really enjoyable year. We do a great podcast, and I can't really imagine this year without having done this with you guys. Thank you. It's been awesome. I've got to talk to some of my idols, Chris Levin, Eddie Bravo, Michael Chiavello, Misha Tate. Thank you, everyone. It's been fucking awesome. And even though we go through our ups and downs, I can really say wholeheartedly that it would be worse without you guys. So I love you.
P Master Money.
Oh, beautifully said, gentlemen. I've got to shout out everybody. I got to shout out Jake, Chris, Dave, Ramses, Rabbi. Got to shout out Josh Webb. All the playground friends. Never would have thought we'd be doing what we're doing right now. All the different great guests on the MMA podcast, on the MMA Mental podcast, all the different things we've got going. Talking to UFC fighters on the weekly, Bellator fighters, Strikeforce fighters. It's been amazing. Talking to fighters on the come up, getting to chat and break down the fights with you guys. It's been beautiful, and we're looking forward to kicking even more ass in 2013.
Yeah, man. Shout out to you five beautiful motherfuckers, Chris, Patrick, Dave, Ramses, all for doing the fucking roundtable. Chris, my brother from another mother, I've enjoyed the fuck out of doing the MMA podcast. Ray and Patrick, MMA Mental is a goddamn beautiful show. It's one of the few podcasts that I actually make time to listen to, along with, Carolla and Rogan. Shout out to Adam Carolla and Joe Rogan, who, really listening to both of their podcasts sort of inspired me to start going down this road, especially Joe. Shout out to Death Squad. Shout out to JRESoundboard.com for all these beautiful drops. Shout out to all my buddies on the playground. Fucking Pookie, Bubbles, Adrenaline, Jay, Josh. You're all fucking badasses. I hate that I started calling out names because now I know there's a dozen in the back of my head that
it's all good.
K-Pro.
K-Pro,
fucking free K-Pro is what I'm talking about. Hashtag free K-Pro. Let's get it going on Twitter. Miss that motherfucker. Everyone on the playground, literally, if I have interacted with you at all on the MMA playground, I love the shit out of you. Everyone I interact there with is dope as fuck. Grappler, Driven Davies, Dancing Doll, The Outlaw, Back Alley, fucking Cowcatcher. You're all Shane T-Pain, Hashi Andy, fucking Akrama, JLS, Kung Fu motherfucking Master, even the goddamn King Smasher, as trolly as that bitch gets. Shout out to the King Smasher. Shout out to Poor Franklin. Shout out to everybody on the goddamn playground. If you're not all about MMAplayground.com, you don't know what the fuck is up. That website is the best MMA forum on the internet, the best MMA picks game on the fucking internet. MMA Playground is the shit. Chris, do you have one last thing?
I do. Let's just all go ahead and remember that this life is finite. 2012 has been the year of really tragic stuff. Guys eating each other's faces off. Pieces of shit. Yeah, pieces of shit shooting up middle schools. How about this? How about you hug your loved ones and you think about all those horrible moments in your life where you were mad at somebody, and how much does that really matter? It really doesn't. Just go ahead and try and think about all the times that you could have done something different and better. Make yourself a better person. So here's the loved ones, here's the hugs, and here's the love. I love you, dude.
Yeah, it's been an awesome year. Really enjoyed 2012 coming out with a podcast. Shout out to all of our friends and family. And if there's one lesson you can take from any of us, I'll go ahead and steal a line from the Joe Rogan podcast. Just don't be a cunt. Live your life like you're the hero in your own movie. and do it big. The Roundtable every Thursday, 7 to 9 Eastern, 4 to 6 Pacific. Patrick, I'll pass it off to you. Uno mas tiempo to plug MMA Mental, your guests, and all that shit.
Muchas gracias, mi amigo. I would like to shout out the MMA Mental podcast. We got.
I like to do that.
Oh yes, our most recent episode we just did last week. We had Mike the Warrior Wilkinson on. We had Ryan Jimmo on. Both two UFC fighters. Both
great podcast, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great show. Both guys coming off of wins. Mike Wilkinson gave us the exclusive scoop. He's dropping down to 145. You can check out the podcast and the article at MMAmental.com. Check out the YouTube channel, MMA Mental. Follow MMA Mental on Twitter, at MMA Mental. And you can also follow your boy P-Money at Sweet Pappy Jones.
Powerful.
Yeah, follow us all on Twitter. P-Money is Sweet Pappy Jones. Dave is Buffalo Dave 10. Ramses, The Ant Jimmy Show. Follow the Word on the Street podcast. Follow MMA Mental on Twitter, the MMA Podcast on Twitter. Chris is C. Lowenstein, Lowenstein. I'm Jake Walters with a Z, JakeWaltrz, because some douchebag took Jake Walters with an S. The MMA Podcast, we do it every Wednesday, 9 to 11 Eastern, 6 to 8 Pacific. Log on at themapodcast.com. We got tons of guests in the queue. Connor Hune, Lenny Hart, Joey Diaz, Henzo Gracie. Definitely looking forward to having them on. And most of all, thank you if you're fucking listening. You all have been beautiful. All the positive comments we've gotten has been really awesome. It was a great 2012, and we're looking to make it an even better 2013. And until we hit you back next week, we gone.
We gone.
Keep in mind when the universe gets aligned, the remnants of this verse are injected into your spine. The evidence of this platform, we rock it all the time. Better in what we stand for, the anchor and the line straight. Slap on the choke if anybody provokes. I'm in it to win and rep it for my fam and my folks. They say just rap now, man. This is murder you roll. It's like making D's on the streets. If you look in the code, you can compound your greed with an image of hope. Study the foul physics of falsified gimmicks. Ride and fall with it and try to ride different. Your life ain't worth living if you ain't got vision. Come on. We did it, mama. We did it. We did it for the love of the game. We did it, mama. We did it. I did it for. Yes, sir. We did it, mama. We did it. The game will never be the same. We did it, mama. We did it. I did it for. Fucking alliance and tech planet rocking with Irish science. Silencing all these idiots caught up in all their ignorance. Two clans fighting under the same banner. We all got love for this ground game, and that's all that matters. In the balance of the teachings of the Grand Master. I'm trying to master the system, that's what I'm after. And stay true to the craft, to spark trees to relax. Old school lyrical listen the track. And I'm working the angles, always sharp and precise, man. Back in the day when I was learning to rockin' this mic, paying homage to the classic shit. Dilated, undisputed heavyweights reppin' Los Angeles. And yeah, I do this for the 213. The storm can flip down, you know I'm with that G. So fire in the hole, slick with the flow. High caliber rappers is here to shatter the fucking mold. Come on. Yes, sir. Mama. We did it for the love of the game.
Powerful.
We did it, mama.
Powerful.
I did it for.
Powerful.
I did it for.
Powerful. Powerful.
Mama.
Powerful. Powerful.
The game will never be the
Powerful.
same.
Powerful.
We did it, mama.
Powerful.
I did it for.
Powerful.
I did it for.